A 360 follow now in the death of a New York area retired Marine, Kenneth Chamberlain Sr. He was shot and killed by police. Today, a grand jury in suburban White Plains decided not to indict the officer who killed him. Tonight, you'll be able to hear what Chamberlain said, what officers heard, and some of what they saw as the incident unfolded, as it unraveled. We've now got videotape recorded by police taser guns and audio tape captured by Mr. Chamberlain's medical alert pendant. Now, this all happened last November. Mr. Chamberlain, who had a history of heart trouble, signaled the medical alert system, which called police. But when officers arrived at his door, he made it clear he didn't want them coming in.
I'm okay. I need to see that you're okay. Now hold up. No, you leave. Can't leave. You leave. You called up. I can't leave. You leave. I'm okay. I need to hear me. You hear me loud and clear. I need to see. I'm okay.
Now, he said that again over and over. Several more minutes of tape that he just wants police to go away. His son says Mr. Chamberlain feared for his life. When he finally opened the door crack, police officers say he was holding a knife. They burst in, tasered the 68-year-old man, fired non-lethal beanbags at him. Then Officer Anthony Corelli shot and killed him. Today, the grand jury declined to indict. We're going to talk to Kenneth Chamberlain Jr., his son, shortly. First, Soledad O'Brien with more on the tapes, the timeline, and the grand jury's decision. Soledad?
Anderson, well, the White Plains District Attorney today said this entire incident was tragic from all sides, and I think that's fair to say. I've seen Mr. Chamberlain's medical records. Ken Chamberlain is a man who really couldn't even walk up a flight of stairs without having respiratory issues, and that's why he wore that pendant around his neck in case he needed medical attention. It went off on November 19th. An ambulance was dispatched. A security camera captured the police arriving. They're there, and Kenneth Chamberlain is called by the medical alert company who talks to him over a speakerphone, and you can hear him telling them he's okay. He wants the police to go away. At one point, he even says they're going to kill me or beat me up. At another point on that audio, you hear the medical alert dispatcher calling the police to tell him he doesn't need them anymore. She also tells Mr. Chamberlain that they're not going to go away unless he talks with them. Now, I want to play some video that was shot from a camera that's mounted on the taser gun. Take a look.
Okay, what are we going to do now? Leave. No, that ain't happening. Leave. Open the door, let us talk to you. Okay. Let the check you out. And then we'll leave. I'm okay. I'm fine. Yeah, but I'm not a doctor. I am fine. No, nothing to that. Leave. I'm fine.
So how long does this go on for?
It goes on for about 20 minutes, and you can hear Mr. Chamberlain's getting agitated. The police, though, are actually not that agitated, but you hear him refusing very firmly, go away. You can hear Kenneth Chamberlain talking at the same time to the life alert people on the videotape. You see the police trying to force their way in as well, and you see that Mr. Chamberlain does have some kind of metal object that he brandishes through the doorway. By now, it's partly open. Police say that was a butcher knife. Let's take a look.
It sounds like he's saying, shoot me. Did the police, have reason to believe he was dangerous?
That is exactly what he's saying. He's saying, shoot me, go ahead, shoot me. I think that question is best answered by going a little bit forward to the end of the tape. At the end of the tape, they fired the taser gun, and you can see Mr. Chamberlain standing there. And this is the portion of the tape that's going to, cause a lot of discussion. We're going to take a look at the end of the tape one more time and in slow motion. And you can see he's standing there. He's half dressed. Remember, it's 5 o'clock in the morning. You can see that only one arm is down by his side. He's yelling, shoot me, in this portion of the video. He's already been tasered. He's not coming at them, but he's not backing down. Listen. It looks like the audio portion of this, Anderson, is not playing, but it's exactly what you heard a moment ago. He's getting more and more agitated. The police are actually, while they're calm, they have now shot the beanbags at him. They're tasering him. The taser rolls the videotape, and eventually the videotape ends. The taser is shut off, and that is when Officer Corelli actually shoots him twice.
I know you've got a lot more on this story tomorrow morning on Starting Point. Joining me now, only on 360, is Randolph McLaughlin, attorney for Kenneth Chamberlain Jr. Also, Mr. Chamberlain joins us by phone. Kenneth, you feel that the justice was not done today. Why?
Well, viewing the audio and the video, it's very clear that there was misconduct. At minimum, even if they didn't want to say something was criminally done, there still was some sort of misconduct.
Misconduct how?
And just using expletives, which you guys haven't played on there, using the N-word. Those things right there, right from the very beginning, just simply tells you that was just inappropriate of the police officers from the very beginning. And then they knocked down the door, and they just immediately fired a taser at my father. Why? He told you he was okay, and the police go away. The door was cracked. You saw he was okay, so there was no reason for you to enter his home.
You say your father was not a threat to the police, but instead feared for his life.
Yes, that's correct. At that time in the morning, someone banging on your door, demanding entry into your home, of course he feared for his life. He was 68 years old. He suffered from a heart condition. And why would the police fire a taser at someone that has a heart condition?
We should point out the police and the DA have confirmed that the N-word was used. We got this tape so late and it's long, we have not had the chance to actually isolate that portion of it, but there is confirmation that was used. Randy, what do you make of the grand jury's decision?
I think it's easier to indict a vigilante in Florida than it is to indict a cop in New York. This is a tragedy from start to finish. Mr. Chamberlain was in his home at 5 a.m., committing no crimes, threatening no one. The clip that you're showing us, that clip comes at the end of almost an hour-and-a-half confrontation where they're yelling at him, they're saying things to him, they're taunting him, they're mocking him. And this was an individual, when you read the police reports, they believed he might have been emotionally disturbed. Well, they did absolutely nothing to calm him down and everything to agitate him. At no point in this entire confrontation does Mr. Chamberlain ever leave his apartment. I've looked at the police records, and the final incident shows that 2 police officers at least entered Mr. Chamberlain's apartment after this video went off. So he presented a threat to no one in his apartment. It's just like Trayvon Martin, where Zimmerman is following him around and putting the young man in fear of his life. Mr. Chamberlain was in fear for his life, and legitimately so.
Mr. McLaughlin, I appreciate you being on. Mr. Chamberlain, our condolences on your loss. I'm so sorry for your loss, and I appreciate you being with us. Let's dig deeper now, though, into what, if any, obligations police had to go into that apartment or to leave if asked. Joining me now is legal contributor Paul Callan, who's also a former New York City homicide prosecutor, has extensive experience presenting cases to grand juries. If a life alert has been signaled, are the police under some obligation to make sure that he's okay?
Well, most prosecutors would tell you that this is a gray area as to whether the police can proceed, force their way into a home. We hear a lot about the castle doctrine, and you need a warrant usually to enter somebody's home. The police here, though, will say they were confronted with a mentally disturbed person who they subsequently find out is armed with a knife, and that they had an obligation to enter to make sure he wasn't going to hurt himself. I'm sure that was the claim they probably made in front of the grand jury.
Could there also have been a case, had they left, had they just taken his word for it that he was okay, and then it turns out he had a heart attack or something, that they would have then been somehow liable or held responsible by his family if, then just said, well, look, the police were at his door, they didn't bother to actually check on him, they left?
Well, I have no doubt that that was something they worried about. I mean, obviously, if he has a history of mental illness, and I don't know anything about his medical background, and he hurt himself, he stabbed himself, they certainly would be subject to great criticism. So the police were in a terrible position here in trying to decide what to do. However, the one thing that troubles me looking at it is you did have Mr. Chamberlain's own family members apparently standing outside the door. So it's not like they were not accompanied by family members who were in a position to say to them, don't worry about it, back off.
Also, the use of the N-word, if, according to Mr. Chamberlain's family attorney, that police were taunting him, kind of mocking him, that doesn't seem to be the right way to deal with a disturbed person.
No, and if that happened, it made the situation much worse, and it seems to me it would put the police in a position where they would be criticized for handling the situation wrongly. But of course, what happens here, and now this apparently goes on over an extensive period of time, there are different snapshots we have to look at. One is, did they have the right to enter at all? Maybe they didn't. But once they're inside, you have an entirely new situation now. If he attacked them with a knife after being hit with a taser and with other benign objects, then maybe they had the right to act in self-defense. We don't know, because we don't know what the testimony before the grand jury was. That's all secret in New York.
Paul Callan, appreciate being on. We'll continue to follow this. Coming up, 175 pages of letters written by Osama bin Laden just released. They show plans for attacks, also some habits bin Laden had in his day-to-day life. Details ahead.